Hey guys, I'm just waiting for a couple of you to join. I realize it's kind of dark in here, but I think it's okay. I think you guys can see me pretty well. Let me try to get a little more light. Alright, I think that's okay. Why? I don't know. I'm so used to doing Instagram Live. I don't know how Facebook Live works. I don't understand. Anyway. Okay, I figured it out. Cool. So, this live is about managing stress and 7 neurohacks, or basically just 7 ways to make your brain manage stress. And I'm just going to wait a couple minutes for a couple other people to join, because I know there are certain people who had asked questions about this, and I want to make sure that they get all the information, because it's really helpful, and it is something that's really it's really life-changing if you can apply it. I'll give them a couple minutes. If they don't join, then I'll just go ahead and give the information and they can watch it later. Okay, I'm going to give them 1 more minute actually. All right, so topic of this session, managing stress. 7 neurohacks, or 7 tips for managing stress, and I'll try not to make it so sciencey. That's my background, so I'll try to make it just really simple for us to understand. Okay, so I think we all have an understanding of what stress feels like. We know what it feels like in the body. We know when we say I'm stressed out, we know what that is. We understand why we say that. But we don't understand what's going on in the brain, in the physical brain that is inside our head. And until we understand that, we are not going to be able to properly manage or treat stress. So that's what this video is about, is what is happening in the brain, why is it happening, and how can we actively and intentionally control what is happening in the brain. And I know a lot of people have been told that you can't control your emotions, or you can't control what happens in your brain. But to a very, very large extent, you can. And that's what neurohacking is. And I've been studying neuroscience for the past 4 years. And I still have a lot to learn. It does take a long time to learn so much about it. But I definitely, the more I share these things with people, the more I share these tips and these hacks, the more people are able to control their stress level. So we're just going to get right into it. So inside the brain, this is just a basic overview of how the brain works. So the brain is a physical organ inside your head. And just like any other part of the body, you have brain health. So you can have a healthy brain, or you can have an unhealthy brain. And unfortunately, our school systems are not teaching us how to have a healthy brain, or why that's important. And that's a big mistake. And that is something that my school actually does talk about, because that's the foundation of everything in life, whether it's what we think, what we feel, what we do, it all starts in the brain. So we have a brain, and it has these tiny, tiny little cells. They're called neurons, and we have billions of them. And we're not born with a set number of brain cells or neurons. We can create new ones. Hi. There are also things that we can do that damage them. So we'll talk about those in a little bit. But what happens is your neurons are going to talk to each other. It's basically the same as what I use as a comparison is living in a big city. Or just living in a country. Let's say our brain is Ghana, and each neuron is a person, right? And so they are going to have certain things that they need to do, certain things they need to say, certain people they need to say it to, certain places they need to go. That's what neurons are. And so they communicate with each other. So this is called neuronetworking. They're going to talk to each other, and this neuron is going to tell that one, go and blink the eyes, go and make sure the body digests the food, go and do this, go and do that. They're constantly talking to each other. And for a long time, we were not aware that we do have a large amount of control over which neurons talk to which other neurons and how they do that and what they say. That's where neurohacking comes in. So when we're talking about stress, there is a certain neurotransmitter, which just means it's like a vehicle for one neuron to take a message to another place. So you can think of it like a car. So there's one in particular that is activated during stress, and it's called norepinephrine. And what norepinephrine is a stress neurotransmitter. And so the more of it you have in your system, the more stress you're experiencing. The less you have, the less stress you're experiencing. And you would think that we want to have zero stress, but we don't. Zero stress means we're sleeping. And if you have no stress or no norepinephrine in your system, you are not going to be motivated to do anything. You are literally going to sleep. So stress is not necessarily bad. It's about finding the right balance of stress and how to manage when that level goes too high or too low. And that's where this video is going to really help you. I'm going to give you 7 practical tips for managing norepinephrine in the brain. So a 10, let's say the scale of norepinephrine is 0 to 10 in your brain. 0 would be you're sleeping. 10 would be the most dangerous, life-threatening situation, terrifying thing that you could imagine. So I like to use the example of you're being pushed out of an airplane with no parachute over the middle of the sea with a bunch of sharks circling below. You don't know how to swim. You can imagine how you would feel. You can imagine your heart rate is going to go up. You're not going to be able to breathe well. You're not going to be able to focus or to function. And unfortunately, a lot of people live every day with that level of norepinephrine in their brain. And for other people who haven't experienced that, they think these people are being dramatic. You're overthinking, you're overreacting, anxiety isn't real. But in the brain, it is very real. And it becomes debilitating. You cannot do anything. The primary purpose of the brain is self-preservation. How do I make sure I don't die? That's what the brain is constantly doing. How do I make sure I stay alive? How do I make sure I don't do anything ridiculous that's going to kill me? So when you have extreme amounts of norepinephrine in your brain, your body goes into what we call fight or flight, where it is only focused on staying alive. That means things that aren't necessary for survival are not going to function well. Memory, creativity, planning, just a lot of these little things that are not necessary for us to stay alive. The body is only going to do what is extremely necessary to stay alive. And that's what a lot of people experience every day. And if that's one of you who watches this video who is living through that life day after day after day, there are things you can do. Don't let anyone tell you that there's nothing that can be done, because there is. And it does have to do with the physical brain and how the chemicals in your brain and these neurotransmitters are working in your brain. So after I give you these tips, try them out, these 7 neurohacks, because they're amazing. They will change your life. And I don't just say that because this is my field of study. I use these in my daily life. I've given these to other people and they use them. And everything that I'm hearing from people is that this has changed their life completely. And so I hope it does for you guys too. So we talked about that scale, 0 to 10, right? We have an ideal range, which is where we want to be. That range is from 4 to 6. That's when we're going to be the most productive. CRPS. Malfunction. Oh, hi, Deanne. I'm reading it. Yes, I will look at that. CRPS. PS. Yes, and what a lot of people don't realize is that your central nervous system, which is part of the, it's like the housing of the sympathetic nervous system, that is where everything in your brain happens. And I'll do a different video about that. But yes, I will look and research, and I'll even ask some of my professors about it, what can be done, especially those of my professors who are into neurohacking and neuroscience, because a lot of this starts in the brain. And if we can figure out what pathway is the brain taking, that it's taking a wrong turn, how do we fix it to the right path? So I will look at that, and I'll get back to you about that. So the ideal phase for norepinephrine is 4 to 6. That's when we're going to be creative, alert, we're going to be excited, we're going to have energy, we're going to be active, we're going to want to do things. And I think everyone has experienced that at some point in their life, where you get up and you're just like, yes, today is awesome. I have so much energy. I want to get stuff done. I'm productive. And the thing that we don't realize is that we can control the brain to an extent and get into that range on purpose when we need to get into that range. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. And these are things that I use in my daily life. So it's not like, oh, I read it in a book, it might be true. These are things that I do every day, and I've seen them drastically change my work habits, how I interact with people. They really are life-changing. So I made this handy dandy little scale. So it says norepinephrine right there. And as you can see, it has 0, and then it has 10 on this side. And so it just kind of goes into what all of these are. So 0, like we said, is sleep. That is that deep sleep where you are not doing anything. You're not aware of what's going on around you. You have no stress, so your body feels like, I can relax. I'm not in danger. I don't need to be alert. Then we have the ideal phase right here, 4 to 6. Then we have this extreme phase, which is where you get things like extreme fear, rage. Those are the top 2 that I could think of, extreme fear and rage. And that's what happens when you have a full capacity of norepinephrine flowing. And if you can imagine those situations, there's no way you can get anything done. Your brain is not going to allow you to be productive in the way you need to be productive. So we'll come back to that range of 4 to 6, but I kind of want to talk briefly about these other ranges. So from range 1, 2, and 3, that's where we get that state of being lethargic. I don't want to do anything. I have no motivation. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm probably feeling kind of hopeless, kind of depressed. And I'm not saying this is the only cause of depression, because there are a lot of other causes, but that's what's happening in the brain when we have certain levels of norepinephrine. Then on the other side, we have the range that's 7, 8, and 9. And that is when we get extreme anxiety, lack of concentration. What else is on my list? Yeah, extreme anxiety, lack of concentration. Hi, Tina. And what happens is that you enter a place in your brain that's called debilitating stress. And I think we've all been there, where you're so stressed out that you cannot concentrate on anything. Even if you have something you need to get done, you're just not able to do it. And what happens is, the more norepinephrine you get in your brain, the more your brain is going to signal you something is wrong. Something is there's a danger present. And if we don't bring that level down, it's just going to continue to rise until we're not able to do anything. And what happens is that the extra things in our body, like creativity and the ability to multitask, they're going to start stopping. because your brain is not going to recognize that that's necessary to stay alive. And like I said, the brain's number one purpose is to keep you alive. That's the primary function. The brain has tons of other functions, but the number one thing your brain is put in your head to do is to make sure that you don't die. And when we have huge levels of norepinephrine in our brain is saying, I don't know what's happening, but something is about to kill me. And that could be a physical threat. That could be something that we've perceived as a threat. It doesn't necessarily mean the scenario I gave of you being pushed out of an airplane over a sea full of man-eating sharks. That one's just kind of an extreme example for you to understand how extreme that level is. So, how do we get to the ideal level of norepinephrine in our brain? How do we do that? I am going to give you 7 tips or 7 neurohacks that can help you. And I'll post this video so you can go back later and watch it again. But I write these down because they are really important to remember. So the first one is breathing. Your breath is one of the functions of the central nervous system that you can control. We can't control our digestive system. We can't control, the flow of blood. We can't control those things. That's something the brain is just doing. But our breathing is something we can control. And it's that way on purpose. So if you've noticed, when you get into situations that are stressful, you start breathing faster. When you're in a relaxed situation, your breathing is slower. This is on purpose, and we need to pay attention to this because it's going to signal to your brain what is going on. Do I need to be alert? Do I need to pay attention? Or is there no threat and I can relax? So when you're in a really stressful situation, and I'm sure we've all heard this, take a deep breath and calm down. It does work. It tells your brain it's okay. Relax, calm down. And so there's something called a physiological sigh. And this is something that we usually do naturally when we're crying or when we're like hysterically upset. And so what you would do, sorry, it's kind of getting dark in here. You would inhale through your nose as much as you can, and then breathe in even more, and then slowly let out through your mouth. So it looks like this. And you would want to do this maybe for 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And you'll notice that your muscles will start to relax. Your brain will start to slow down. Your heart rate will start to slow down. And this is the first step in telling your brain, hey, calm down. You're freaking out. I don't like it. So breathing. The same thing can be done if you are in that stage of 1 to 3 where you're not motivated, that stage of feeling lethargic. You can bring yourself out of that through certain breathing techniques. And, what's his name? I can't remember his name. I want to say his name is like Tony Robbins or something. I can't remember. I'm sure I have it written down somewhere. Let me check if I wrote it down, because I want to give you guys as much helpful information as I can. Tony Robinson. I was so close. Okay, so Tony Robinson has a technique that he calls the breath of fire, and he does this every morning, basically as a way to get that norepinephrine to the 4 to 6 range so he can be productive and active. And so what you do is you use like your ab muscles to push your breath out through your nose and then quickly breathe it back in. So it goes like this. And it's forcing yourself to basically hyperventilate, and you don't want to do this for a long amount of time. Like 30 seconds is good. But what it does is it tells the brain, hey, wake up, pay attention. Something is happening. So when you're in that state of feeling like, I just don't want to do anything, I'm not motivated to do anything, I don't care about doing anything, try doing this. And I didn't think it was going to work, actually. I'm a very big skeptic until I prove things myself. But once I actually tried this and saw that, hey, my brain is kind of waking up and my brain is like, what's going on? Maybe I should pay attention to something. I notice I feel more alert. So the first tip is breathing, whether it's slowing down your breathing to relax or increasing your breathing to motivate yourself. The second one is vision. And I'm not talking about like hallucinations. That's not the kind of vision I'm talking about. I'm talking about what you physically see with your eyes or what you are imagining in your mind. Not deviating too much, but our central nervous system is set up in a way that everything that you sense around you is what forms your perceptions, and your perceptions form emotions, emotions form thoughts, thoughts form actions. So everything starts with the sensory information, whether it's touch or smell or what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and out of those senses, 80% of what your body is going to respond to, or your brain will respond to, is vision. What you see is so important. What you focus on is so important because it's forming your perceptions, and from that forms everything else. So if we are in a position where we are super stressed out, what most neuroscientists recommend is to close your eyes, because you're immediately cutting off that 80% of sensory information, and it's going to tell your brain, hey, take a break for a second. We need to concentrate on something else. Hi. And you don't want to just be closing your eyes and thinking about the same problem, right? Because that's not helpful. So what most people will do is to envision somewhere that they feel safe. Not necessarily somewhere that you feel peaceful, but somewhere you feel safe. So in my talking with a lot of people, some people envision their grandmother's rocking chair, or their family kitchen, or sitting on the couch at Christmas time, because it was a place that they remember feeling like there was no threat. That might be different it will be different for everyone. Some people it's the beach, some people it's the woods, some people it's a specific person or a specific memory. But when you feel yourself getting to that stress level where I can't concentrate, I can't get anything done, the first thing is breathing. Slow your breathing down. The second thing is close your eyes. Cut off that sensory information and envision that safe place, wherever that was for you. On the alternate side of that, if you are feeling unmotivated, what you look at is going to tell your brain what to do. And so what I do is I look at a physical target, like a target like you would shoot at. And so I stare at this target for like 60 seconds, just concentrating only on that. And this is why this works. When your brain has this high level of norepinephrine, hey Mavis, when your brain has this high level of norepinephrine in a natural scenario, you develop what's called tunnel vision. And that's where you're not seeing everything else. So let's say you are walking in the woods and this giant grizzly bear comes out of nowhere and is like furious with you. You're not looking at what color is that wildflower. Oh, those rocks are so smooth. You're not perceiving that. And what that's telling your brain is, hey, pay attention. So when you're feeling that place of, I'm not motivated to do anything, I just don't care, what you look at and what you focus on can tell the brain, hey, pay attention. And so I stare at a physical target for about 30 seconds, at most 1 minute. And I only focus on that. I don't allow my mind to look over there. Oh, look at that thing over there. Oh, look at that piece of paper over there. Oh, look at this thing. I focus solely on that thing. And if you guys try this, you'll notice that it does make a big difference. So the first thing was breathing. Second was vision. The third one is movement. Whether you slow your movement down or you speed your movement up, your brain is going to respond differently to each of those. So if you're super stressed out, you'll notice that that's when a lot of people are like tapping their pen, or like their leg starts shaking, or a lot of these very hyper activities. And all that's doing is making it worse, because your brain is going to keep pumping norepinephrine because it thinks that there's a threat, and it's preparing itself either to fight the threat or to run away. And so you need to calm your body down. You need to actively think, okay, shoulders go down, hands go down, be still, legs stop shaking. On the opposite side of that, when you're feeling unmotivated, doing cardio, and it doesn't matter if it's just you sitting in a chair and like wiggling, you know, that's cardio. That's getting your heart rate going. That's moving your body. That is going to tell your brain, hey, pay attention. We're about to do something. Okay? So, first one was breathing. Second was vision. Third is movement. Fourth one is self-talk. Everyone has that self-talk that we replay over and over and over. Some have very positive self-talk. Some have very negative self-talk. And most times the negative self-talk is just a repetition of past trauma in your life, whether that was a parent who was really abusive or the bully in school. You'll notice that these are the same thoughts that keep replaying. And what happens in your brain is that you form a neural pathway. That's basically just a little path from one neuron to the other. And he's like, I'm going to go over here. And that's what they do. And the more it goes, it's going to create a road so that they can go quicker. Then it's going to create a highway. And so soon you have this neural pathway that is firing all of these negative things in your mind, and your mind doesn't know how to stop them. So they have something called linguistic reprogramming, where you have to tell yourself, stop thinking that. And I know this is really hard. This is something that a lot of people, repetitious cycles of I'm stupid, or I'm not good enough, I'm not worth anything. The more you allow yourself to think this, the more your brain is going to create a huge neural highway, and it's going to become very difficult to break off from that. Not impossible, but difficult. And so what you have to do is you have to tell yourself positive things. And at first you're not gonna believe it. You can say something like, you're not stupid, you're smart. And your brain will continue that same neural pathway, because now it's a highway, and it will say, yes, you are. You have to continue saying, no, you're not. The chances of you, or the probability of you being born who you are, in the way you are, looking the way you are, to the parents you were born with, on the day you were born, in the generation you were born, is 1 in 7 trillion. If you write down what that number is, 7 trillion, you'll see how many zeros that is. It is a huge number, which means that you were created very much on purpose, very intentional. The statistics alone indicate that it is impossible for you to have just been coincidentally born who you are, how you are, to the parents you were born with. It's just scientifically and mathematically impossible, which means that there is something very unique about you. These little things are what you need to hold on to when those negative things start replaying. And when we're talking about stress, the more stressed out we get, the more we tell ourselves, you see, you don't know how to do anything. You see how stupid you are? You let yourself get so stressed out, and now your work is late, and now you're going to get fired, and then you're going to be homeless. And we go through this whole scenario, and we do it over and over and over and over. We have to actively tell ourselves. Sometimes I say it out loud. I don't mind talking to myself. That's okay. But I will tell myself, hey, no, that is not correct. And it does take a while. I mean, I've seen people, it takes years for them repeating this same positive information, because how many years did you repeat the negative information? And now you have to change that to a new neural pathway where your brain is instantly going to say, oh, you know what, I messed up, but that's okay because I'm learning. Instead of saying, look how stupid you are, you can't even do a simple task. This is called linguistic reprogramming. So when you're super stressed out, pay attention to what narrative is playing in your mind. Be very aware of that. And the same thing when you're feeling unmotivated, because we do the same thing when we are not feeling motivated. It doesn't matter what I do, nobody cares about me anyway. If I die, no one will care or no one will notice. We say really mean things to ourselves. And this is across the board. I have met so many different people who say nasty, nasty things about themselves. And we have to stop doing that. So that is step 4, self-talk. Step 1 is breathing. Ow, ripped out my earring. Step 2 is vision. 3 is movement. 4 is self-talk. The 5th one is eating, or alternately fasting. What you eat or what you do not eat will either raise or lower the norepinephrine in your brain. That's why we eat for comfort, because it tells the brain, if I were in a life or death situation, I wouldn't be eating. So if I'm eating, that means it's okay for me to relax. The same thing is true with fasting. If you're in an extreme situation, your immediate thought is not, let me go grab a pizza. Your immediate thought is, how do I not die? So if you are in that high stress level, and I'm not saying stress eat. Don't go tell somebody, she said that I should eat this whole cake because I'm stressed out. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that when you are super stressed out, take a moment, do the other steps, do the breathing, do, go through the vision, go through movement, go through self-talk, and then consider, is my brain needing some kind of nutrient that I haven't given it? Am I actually just really hangry? How can I put something positive into my body that's going to help me relax? And for that, I do recommend fruit and nuts. And I know that sounds like really blah, but the components in fruit and nuts are really helpful for brain health. On the other side of that, if you're feeling very unmotivated, a lot of people do say that intermittent fasting helps them to have more energy. And I don't recommend you guys just jump into this. You know your health history, you know the foods you should eat. If you're not supposed to be fasting, you guys know that stuff. I don't, because I don't know each of your history. But this is just one of those tips that can help. The next one, number 6, we're almost done with the list, is temperature. Not your physical body temperature, but the temperature in the place where you are. Is it hot? Is it cold? What is the temperature like? Typically, warmer temperatures help the body to relax. Although I challenge this theory, because when it gets hot out here, I am super crabby and I am not relaxed because it is uncomfortable, and I feel like that is a threat to my health. So I would like to challenge that theory. But typically, warmer temperatures help the body to relax. Colder temperatures will help the body to be awake. And there's a lot of study with this, the cold theory, especially with cryogenics. People who put themselves in like an ice bath and suddenly they're able to have super mental clarity and all kinds of stuff. And it does work when you look at the physical brain. But the reason that works, which I just found out from one of my favorite professors from Stanford, Dr. Huberman. If you can check him out on YouTube, he's amazing. His name's Dr. Huberman. Pretty much spelled phonetically, Huberman, Dr. Huberman. He just did an Instagram live about how cryogenics works, and it's not necessarily the cold, it's the shivering. And that goes back to movement. That shivering, like that tiny little shaking, it's telling your body, hey, pay attention, something's happening. And it's the same thing with warm temperatures. Warm temperatures, that's why we take a warm bath, right? If we're stressed out, we usually take a warm bath because it's going to not only physically for your muscles tell them to relax, but it tells your brain, hey, it's okay. We can calm down now. We're not going to die. There's not a grizzly bear attacking us. Relax. Now the last one, I'll get to in just a second, but I just want to do a quick recap. So, just a quick recap of the whole thing. We have a neurotransmitter in our brain, which is just a vehicle for neurons to talk to each other. It's called norepinephrine. It is a stress factor. We don't want 0 stress, that means we're asleep. We also don't want 10, which is the highest level, because that means we're in extreme danger and we can't focus. We want between 4 and 6 on that scale. If you are super stressed out, there are things you can do to lower that level. And if you are feeling lethargic or don't have energy, there are things that you can do to raise that level. And they are breathing, whether you slow down your breathing or increase your breathing. Vision, whether you close your eyes and envision a safe space or you focus intensely on something. Movement, whether you slow down your movement and become still or whether you activate your body. Self-talk, the things that you say to yourself. Eating or fasting. Temperature, whether it's hot or cold. And then the last one is supplements. And this is a little different from your basic overall diet. Supplements in particular are these things that you're going to take to either raise that level in your brain or to decrease that level in your brain. The number one supplement taken for brain activity in the world across both genders, all ages, is caffeine. That can be in coffee, that can be in chocolate, that can be in tea, but caffeine is the number one that is taken in the world. And depending on your neurochemistry, the chemicals active in your brain, caffeine may or may not stimulate your mind. It may have the opposite effect and decrease activity in your mind. That just has to do with your individual chemistry in your brain. But overall, most people take caffeine as a stimulant to get you out of that zone of not being motivated and into that motivation zone. But you do have to be careful because the more you take it, your body builds a tolerance, which means you're going to be consuming more. Although, I just read a study that says that when a brain is saturated in coffee for a period of 2 years or more, it can help prevent Alzheimer's disease. So if you needed any other reason to drink more coffee, there's one for you. The next one is L-tyrosine. And L-tyrosine is another one that is going to boost your brain activity. It is going to help you to be alert and to be focused. Let me give you some examples of what has L-tyrosine. Oh, just kidding, I didn't write it down. Well, that's not very helpful. Okay, well, I didn't write it down, but you guys can check out L-tyrosine. One that will help decrease stress is called L-theanine, and it's found in tea. It's also found in a couple other things. But the cool thing about L-theanine is that it is an amino acid, which means it's not usually synthetically formed, and it increases alpha brain waves. And we can do another talk about different types of brain waves, but alpha brain waves are a very calm brain wave where you're able to perceive reality as much internally as you do externally. We'll go into that in another video, but it helps to promote creativity, focus, being alert with clarity. It helps memory, and that's why a lot of cultures do drink tea. So L-theanine is amazing, and the coolest thing about L-theanine is that it does not make you drowsy, because there are other supplements that can help calm you down, but they're going to make you drowsy, and that is counterproductive. So if you're trying to calm down to be productive and you take something that's going to make you drowsy, then you really did not do anything positive at all. A couple other supplements, and some people call these nootropics, but there's a difference between nootropics and supplements. Nootropics are specifically designed for brain function. Supplements like caffeine, that can be used for body function, not just brain function. Another one is creatine, and usually we hear about creatine in exercising or for bodybuilders, but it has a huge impact in the brain. So what happens is it's an amino acid used to make protein, which is why bodybuilders use it, but our brain needs that. And I'll talk about that in another one also, because that creatine is really interesting. So what happens is it enters your brain and it bonds with phosphate. Phosphate is like phosphoric acid and salt. And so it creates this new molecule, and that molecule is used to fuel cells. And so the more fuel you have available, the quicker your brain is going to be able to fire off synapses, which is like the activity of neurons. So it improves short-term memory, it improves reasoning, just our overall sense of being rational, especially in high-stressed people. So it works even better if you're stressed out. So creatine is awesome. There's another one called Bacopa monnieri, or they call it something else. like Brahmi or something. Brahmi, I think that's what they call it. But it is an herb, and it's used to speed up neuroactivity. It can improve your memory. And this supplement or herb works through protecting the brain from oxidative stress. So these kinds of stresses are going to destroy neurons. So Bacopa monnieri can help prevent that. And it improves communication in the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is the part of the brain responsible for processing memory production. So if you're having trouble remembering things, you can try to find some Bacopa monnieri. It's an herb. It's not like a medication that you're going to take. And that's going to help your brain communicate with the hippocampus so that you're able to recall information easier. It also helps to reduce anxiety, and it helps to rebuild damaged neurons. And Dr. Huberman at Stanford, he does a lot of study with rebuilding optic nerves, trying to restore sight for blind people, which is a really cool way of using neuroscience. And so he's done a lot of research with Bacopa monnieri, and it's something that his lab has been able to prove that it does help to rebuild neurons. Another one that people talk about is rhodiola rosea. It just helps you to handle stress. It helps to reduce mental fatigue, and it stimulates the limbic cortex. And I know I said I wasn't going to get too sciencey with it, so I'll just kind of leave it there. But it's just really good for your brain. Let's just say that. Ginseng is also good for your brain, but ginseng does come with a few warnings. Like if you're pregnant, you shouldn't take ginseng. It's a root that's used for brain function. It's really helpful for things like mental math. So if you need to calculate things or do meticulous mental planning, ginseng can really help with that. But your brain does build a resistance to ginseng. So that's why usually if you're on a ginseng supplement, they'll tell you take it for a certain amount of time and then stop taking it, because your brain builds a tolerance to it. And then the last one that I thought was super interesting on this list, and that's why I put it on this list, is nicotine. And I'm not saying go smoke, because we know that nicotine is toxic and it's fatal in high doses. But nicotine is a really, really powerful brain stimulant. And that's why a lot of artists smoke, because it does activate the creativity in your brain. But it's super unhealthy. But they did find in studies with people who have ADD or ADHD that if they chewed nicotine gum, they were able to control their physical movements and have neater, more fluid, and faster handwriting that was more legible. So I thought that was really interesting. It is really interesting, actually. Not that I thought it was, but it is. So that's just a really basic overview of how to manage norepinephrine levels in your brain. And so as you go about your day and you feel yourself starting to get stressed out, take a second, and you can either rewatch this video or, if you took notes on it or if you just remember what was in it. Just take a second and go through those 7 tips. Breathing. Check. How are you breathing? When you're stressed out, you are definitely not breathing in a calm way. Check what you're looking at. What are you focusing on? Check your movement. Are there little things your body's doing that you're unaware of? Is your hand shaking? Are you tapping a pen incessantly? Is your leg shaking? Are you wiggling your toes inside your shoe repeatedly? These are things that we can actively control, and when we stop doing them in a high-stress situation, it tells the brain, it's okay. No one is coming to kill you. Relax. So we had breath, we had vision, we had movement, self-talk. This one is so huge, and I know a lot of psychologists will tell you this too, and a lot of psychiatrists will tell you this, and now a neuroscientist is telling you this. Pay attention to what you are saying in your head. Pay attention to it. And if you're a person who is able to be self-reflective or introspective, think about, where did you first hear that? Where did that first come from? Where did that thought that you're not good enough, or that you're ugly, or that nobody cares about you, where did that first come from? For some of us, it takes some digging to go back. Was it when I was in school? Was it a kid who said it to me? Was it a parent who said it to me? We do have to go back and kind of dig into that. And I know it's painful, but the more we can kind of get to that root, we can analyze the situation from our current state of maturity and growth and understanding, to also see, maybe the person who said that was also just operating out of stress. Most people who say horrible things are manifesting their own past trauma. And that's why you have that saying, hurt people, because they're just operating out of their own hurt. And we're going to continue to do that unless we can actively take control over the self-talk in our mind. Because what happens is we get this high influx of norepinephrine, we're freaking out, and that's when you start calling people all kinds of a-holes and all kinds of whatever else, because you're just responding out of your own past trauma. You're responding out of stress. You are not actively responding. You're just letting your brain do whatever it wants. And that's really bad, because the brain can do a lot of things. So we need to control the brain. So we did breathing, vision, movement, self-talk. What else was on that list? See, this is why I write it down, because I don't always remember what's on the list. Eating or fasting. Ask yourself, when did I last eat? Did I skip breakfast? Am I also partially responding because I'm really hungry and my brain is like looking for food? Gosh, stop messaging me. I'm doing something. Temperature. If it's possible, can you control the temperature of where you are? Do you have a way to just, go and take a hot shower, which I know that doesn't work for traffic. But just make it an active thought. Am I too hot? Am I too cold? What's happening with the temperature? And then the last one is supplements. And like I said about caffeine, be careful, because your body will build a tolerance, which means you're going to drink more, which means there's more caffeine in your brain, which is going to stimulate you even more. And I know some people have noticed that if they drink more than maybe 2 or 3 cups of coffee, they get a really bad attitude. And it's because there's too much stimulation in the brain. So just be kind of monitoring what is happening when you're feeling super stressed out. And on the other end of that scale, what is happening when you feel lethargic, when you feel unmotivated, when you don't want to do anything? And like I said, that doesn't mean that it's norepinephrine. There's a lot of factors for feeling depressed and unmotivated, especially this year. If you had something traumatic happen to you and you're sad about it, that's normal. That is not a norepinephrine issue. That's not like, there's just not norepinephrine in my brain. That is something that's very real. Something happened, and this is a reaction or a response of the brain to what happened. And people do ask me, how can I neurohack my way out of being sad about a breakup? You don't. That's called emotional suppression, and we don't do that. That's very dangerous. I can give you other tips for that, but I cannot tell you how to neurohack your way out of emotions you don't want to feel, because the brain feels them for a reason. So that was a very quick overview, and I know I said a lot of things really quickly, but I'll post this and you guys can go back and watch it. You can write down notes if you want to. And I am working on a YouTube channel so that I can post a lot of these on YouTube so that you can share them with people. You can go back and watch them as needed. But try these out and let me know how they work for you. That's something I tell everybody that I have this conversation with. Try it and let me know how it works for you. Because for me, it has definitely helped. You are welcome, and thank you for watching it. For a long time, I didn't share this information because I thought people didn't really want to hear about it. But I realized that we're just not taught about how to have a healthy brain. I never remember being in school and having a teacher say, okay, don't eat sugar because of diabetes, and don't have too much salt because of hypertension, and make sure you drink water because your brain needs it to communicate. I was never taught that. I was never taught, like, how do I make my brain healthy? during like the anti-drug week, we were shown pictures. This is your brain on drugs. But we were never taught about the brain itself. And that's a big mistake, because now we're seeing so many mental health issues and we're treating the symptoms, but we're not treating the actual root of the issue. We're not understanding that there's something happening in the brain. And for a long time, and even now, psychiatry has been really stigmatized for crazy people. But once you have a brain, you have a brain health. Once you have a mind, you have mental health. And we have to stop stigmatizing it, because that's why we have so many people who are operating in this extreme level of stress, and people are telling them they're just making it up. You're not. You're not just making it up. There are things, there are chemicals and neurotransmitters in your brain that are just at a different level. And when you can start to actively control those levels and calm yourself down, you'll be a lot more productive. And out of that production is going to come life changes. It's going to come changes in your state of mind and your mood. And that's going to affect everything, your relationships, how you talk to yourself. So yeah, I will share more about all kinds of other stuff in some different videos. But thank you guys for watching. And feel free to share this or tag people in it. I don't know if I set it to public, or I don't know how to do that. I'm not that technologically savvy. I can figure out your brain, but I can't figure out Facebook. So it is nighttime here. Afternoon there? Barely noon there? What time is it there? I don't even know. Anyway, I'll just say, have a good rest of your day, whether it is nighttime, morning time, or daytime. And I love you guys, and especially you guys in California. Stay safe. And I love you, Mom. And Noon. Awesome. And I love you, Deanne. And I miss you guys. And I will look up what you asked about, and I'll do some research on that, and I'll see what might be able to help you. Because really my whole point in this is just to help people have the best life experience. We're all here for the first time and for the only time. And that's really special. And the more I can help people to enjoy the one time that they get to be alive, that matters to me. So love you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.